And we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so do you guys like the subtitles? I'm testing it out on you. That's all in PowerPoint, so it's kind of cool. All right, so let's get started. Now, I am going to let me give you some disclaimers. There are so many ways to find a deal. I'm giving you the basic true ways to find a deal. I'm going to talk to you from a residential agent's perspective, and then I'm going to also give you tips on if you want to be an investor or maybe if you want to work with an investor. So, outside of everything I'm going to say, you could take a class from a different investor. They're going to give you different information or even more information. I'm trying to keep this basic so you have a place to start. We could do a whole series on being an investor, and if you talk to my husband Mark, who's in the other room, and I was just fussing at him about his paperwork. But anyway, he'll give you different ways on how to work with investors, and I'll probably give you some of those tips in a moment when we get to that slide. And I am going to, because I'm in Illinois, and I know laws in Iowa, Georgia, New York, West Virginia. I've taught in Wisconsin, and I'm licensed in not Wisconsin, different story, but I'm licensed in a lot of the other states. So I don't have access to your MLS, and I am going to go through my MLS. I'm also going to log into HomeSnap, and I did a quick class yesterday on HomeSnap, but I'm going to actually show it to you again here. Except I'm going to use a different part of HomeSnap. So I'm also going to use Remind. We no longer have Realist in Illinois. Um, and I'll go over the basics. So when you're done with this class, whether it's today or tomorrow or Monday, you're going to log into your own multiple listing service to figure out the tools you have so you can do some of the same things. I'll also give you some websites on how to find sheriff sales and things like that. And I'm not charging you anything. All right. So here we go. All right. Just got to make sure I have I can't see my own screen. All right. So, and I'm going to hide my camera just because I don't know what it looks like on your end. So I'm calling this dumpster diving for deals because when you actually start to look for real estate, what's interesting is I had someone send me a direct message, and she was like, Carrie, I was going to get into real estate and I was going to just hit the ground running and I was going to make a whole lot of money. And some of you, it was easy. And some of you, you were able to do it, but you worked at it. And some of you, you're like still trying to figure out how to figure it out. So it's not as easy as we think. So you really will feel like you are digging in a dumpster. So we're gonna talk about residential agents versus the investor, and it won't be a comparison. It'll just be I'm gonna talk to you about both. We'll talk about the 70% rule for investing in real estate flips. Do you want to live in it, flip it, or rent it out? Using data to find the home to list. So whether you're working with an investor or you're working with a seller, we're gonna use data to find the best house to sell, and then using data to find the best flip. And then, so I'm gonna talk to you about Remind. I'll reference Realist, but we don't have that product anymore. I'm just really good at it. RPR, which is brought to you by the National Association of Realtors, and then HomeSnap, and then your multiple listing service. So I guess I have to speak clearly so it translates well. Okay, so selling real estate. So you can do both. You can sell, list, and invest in real estate, but most real estate agents start with selling and listing. And when we say selling, that means you're the buyer's agent. And a lot of times we get confused because we think that we're a buyer's agent or a listing agent, but the truth is you're either the selling agent or the listing agent. You're the agent that procured the deal. And some states are different. They're transactional, like Florida, um, but you're either on one side of the deal. You could be a dual agent. That's a different for a different day. But you're either the buyer's agent or the listing agent. So a residential agent, typically we sell and list for compensation. We can say a co-op cooperation, meaning we have co-opted with another agent. And yes, this includes rentals. Now, some of us don't work with rentals, but residential agents, we do it all. Now, the investor, We buy with the intention to fix, flip, or rent it out. Now, it could be that you do the numbers and you're like, should I live in it, flip it, or rent it out? So when we talk about that, and when I reference RPR, RPR has a tool that gives you the ability to figure out if it's something you should flip, is it something you should keep over time, or is it something that you should live in? So, really quickly, let's talk about the 70% rule of investing in real estate. And don't worry, no, I'm not giving you my PowerPoint, but I will add a download to give you some of this basic information. So, the 70% rule of investing in real estate. You should not pay more than 70% of the ARV, so the after return value, minus the repairs and expenses. And yeah, I hated math in high school. I hate math now. So thank God for Microsoft Excel. I should have built one of those for you. So here's an example of what I just said. If after the repair value, if it's $100,000, then you should not pay more than $70,000 minus the repairs. So what does that mean? So if you're looking to invest in real estate or flip, we'll say flip, um, and you find a property that you really think would be a great investment, you should not be paying more than $70,000 minus the repairs and expenses. So if the expenses total $30,000, then your hope is to buy the property at $40,000. And I say hope because in this marketplace, you will find that the deals are not there like they used to be. Now, it doesn't mean there isn't a deal. So don't get me wrong. It's just that you're going to work a little bit harder at it. So, as an investor, your goal is to not have to spend more than 70%, and that means minus the expenses. So, as an investor, you need to know what the ROI is, the return on investment, or the after repair value. So, these are things you're going to do. You're going to create a market analysis on the property and after repair value. So, if you were taking notes right now, you're going to create a market analysis based on what an investment property would sell for. Bank owned, REO, real estate owned by the bank, maybe a short sale or a pre foreclosure. I use a tool called InfoSparks, which happens to be down in our MLS today. Or I will use my MLS to figure out if a bank owned home, real estate owned, REO, is selling less than a traditional home. And when we say traditional home, we mean a property that is being sold by the seller and it's not distressed. So it's not bank owned. And when I say seller, someone that lives in the house or owns the house, not the bank. Something that's bank owned, something that is a short sale, or something that's a pre foreclosure. Now, I'm not really getting into short sales and pre foreclosures, but there really is a difference. If I had a house and I wasn't paying my mortgage, I could be in pre foreclosure. But when I'm in pre foreclosure, it doesn't mean that I'm selling the house short of what I owe. So just because something's in pre foreclosure doesn't mean that the seller won't make money. A short sale is when someone is selling a property for less than what they owe. So if the house was $100,000, but the client owes it would only sell for 100, but they owe 125, that would be a short sale. And it doesn't mean the property's in pre foreclosure. But it just means that the homeowner doesn't have the funds to come to closing with the additional 25,000 plus expenses. So it's really important that we learn that. So, and you need to create a market analysis after repair value, and you need to create a market analysis for the bank owned, because when you decide, depending on the lender you're going to work with, unless you have cash, and some of you might have cash, your lender wants to know if you flip it, will you be able to sell it? And I'm going with hard money loans. So you'll also create a market analysis based on renting out the property, because what if you buy the property and the market changes? It all of a sudden market changes and you can't sell it for what you thought you could sell it for. You need to make sure that if you have to put a tenant in the property, that the rent will cover the mortgage. So you got to know that. And then if you are buying a multi-unit, you want to know the rents for every unit, because you want to make sure that those rents are going to cover the mortgage. So do the numbers work? You need to know that. What if you can't sell the property? So I just said that. So you need to know those numbers. Now, if you are working with a traditional seller, you're going to go through a lot of the same steps. Now, I have a whole list of things you should do, but I'm giving you the basics. So, you need to create a market analysis. In this market, what if the property goes over ask? What is your strategy? Are you using documents to tell the buyer's agent that your buyer needs to come to closing with the additional funds? And then you need to know the best house to sell in your marketplace. So, I'm going to give you both scenarios today. So when we talk about dumpster diving for listings, you need to know the best house to sell in your market. So I live in Illinois. I live in a city called West Chicago, Illinois, and I know right now the best house to sell is a 3 bedroom under $250,000. I also know that that's typically the inventory. So depending on your marketplace, you need to learn this. So I mentioned InfoSparks, and it is owned by Showing Time, and in a lot of other states, it's called MarketView. If you don't have that tool, you need to be able to pull the numbers in your MLS. And I'm going to show you how to do that in my MLS for my Illinois agents today because InfoSparks is down. So you need to know the best house to sell based on bedrooms, bathrooms, price, absorption rate. You need to also be looking at the close. So, what is the inventory like in the communities you work in? So right now I know, let me think. If I were selling in the city of Aurora, the best house to sell in Aurora, Illinois, one of the larger cities in Illinois outside of Chicago, is a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house. I don't even care about the price. I just know that they are flying off the shelf based on the absorption rate. We're under 3 months, which means it's a seller's market. So it's very important for you to know this. Now, I'm not going into a full class on this, so join me in an InfoSparks class, but I will give you the basics from my MLS. So when we talk about looking for flips, and full disclosure, I am not someone that likes to work with investments. Now, my husband is, so I watch it every day. My idea of an investment is it's fully renovated and I can just put in a tenant because I don't want to do all that work. Because if some of you watched us live on Facebook last night, and you can go watch the replay, and I'll upload it to Mark's IGTV channel later today. Yesterday, Mark went to the property, and he got there, and they were putting up the wrong color siding. So the siding didn't match the garage. So in my mind, I'm thinking, yep, I'm out. This is too much work. And he's willing to go to the supplier and go off. Me, oh man, that was just a stress. So you can hear the whole story on Facebook, and it's public. Carrie Joe Little. So when we talk about flips, you have to get real. I mean, seriously, this is the hard part when you look for flips. You got to drive the neighborhood. When I talk to the agents that I work with that really have investors, investors do a lot of the work. We might have to create a market analysis, and I'll give you a tip on how to help them create a market analysis so you don't have to do it. But the investor has to be vested. And here's the truth. If I go and find the deal, why would I give it to an investor if I have the money to buy it? I'm going to fix it, flip it, or I'm going to fix it or rent it out because I did all the work. I had an agent from another company say, "Hey, Carrie, you're really good at this. Can you scrub the deals for me?" And I was like, "Sure, $500 an hour." And he was like, "Well, no, I was thinking more like $15 an hour." And I was thinking, if I go do all that work and I give it to you and your team, why wouldn't I just work the deal? I know how to do this stuff. And my goal is, listen, and I know a lot of us, we don't get the training we need in the companies we work for. I really know that every agent can be successful. So you got to drive the neighborhoods, and you need a notebook. And when you see a house that's vacant, you need to write it down. Then you reach out to, you're the agent, go look it up. Is it already a bank owned home? If you can't find it in Remine or Realist or whatever tax system you're using, you got to go to the county or the township. You got to get online and you got to go look up the information, and you need to talk to the people in the neighborhood. So where I grew up, I know a lot of people, and you got to be able to talk to the person that knows what's happening in the neighborhood so they tell you where the deal is. You got to also talk to your network. And the truth is sometimes you just got to be in the right place at the right time. And let me go back a step when I say talk to your network. So Mark, my husband, he talks to lenders all day, every day. He does not like to email. He doesn't like to text. He's going to call you. And if you don't answer, he's not leaving a message. Drives me crazy. But he has figured out that if he can talk to people, they will tell him where the deal is. So I'm going to tell you about the most recent two rehabs. One of the deals, a lender said, "Hey, I have a friend. They want to get out of the house. This is the amount of money they want." He said, "Okay, where is it?" He didn't even say, "Yeah, that's not good enough for me." He wanted to go see the property. So he went and saw the property. I think they may have owed $60,000. He paid off the loan and bought the property, and that's how he got the deal. Because people were talking. So really, the truth is, you got to be able to have conversations. Now, the other deal, so some of you know my husband is addicted to cars. So he was putting in an automatic starter in one of my cars, and come to find out, you cannot put an automatic starter in a Porsche. So, but he was there talking to the guy that was doing it, and he was like, "Yeah, so what do you do for a living?" The guy was asking Mark, and he was like, "Well, I'm a real estate agent." He was like, "You are?" He was like, "Yeah, well, my parents have this house in um this city, and they can't afford the taxes, and it's really bad inside, and they just want to unload it." Mark was like, "Can I go see it?" And when we get finished with this rehab, so some of you know it's in Bellwood, um and you can see it in the private listing network for those of you that are on in our MLS. The property was so bad inside. It had dog crap everywhere. I When I first saw the property, I'm like, I can't even go in. Like, for me, like the house we're in, it was terrible. The house we currently live in, I'm like the average consumer, can't see past the mess. But he could see past the mess. And it's been a project working with the Village of Bellwood, but he got the deal of a lifetime. He had the best attorney who went to court on behalf of the seller because there was a bankruptcy. We thought we were going to have to come to closing with an additional $30,000. But so this is why you have to talk to your network and have the right team in place. So a steal. And then so you can simply go to your MLS tools to find deals. Now, when you're buying, now again, I said I'm giving you the basics. There are so many other ways to find a deal, from probate court. Um, yeah, and I don't want to say the other ones because you got to really know what you're doing. But number one, you might need some money. If you're an agent and you are currently um, real estate is your primary income, and let's say you're making $60,000 a year, you have to pay into the tax system to get a loan. So you need some money, you need a down payment, and it's typically somewhere between 5 and 20% depending on your credit. You also need the money to repair. I get DMs from people all the time on Facebook. "Hey, Carrie, I have $30,000 I want to flip." I'm like, "Okay, do you have the extra money to fix it?" "Well, no, I only want to spend $10,000 on the property and I'll use the other 20 to fix it." Now you want me to go find the super deal? Now it can be done. So my realtors that are in urban areas, so I'm going to say the city of Chicago, but if you work in an area that has an urban area, you got to become someone that is willing to learn. And you have to be willing to go do research, because in the city of Chicago, if you live in the city of Chicago, they have $1 deals. $1 deals. So there's the land bank, there's all these different opportunities where you can buy property, but you got to sometimes live in these areas. So get on your computer, Google it, and go figure out what areas have programs for people that live in their cities. And I know in our city, we had a $20,000. The city was giving you $20,000 to convert a property back to single family, because there were a lot of properties that were taken from single family to multi units, but they were giving you 20,000 if you bought it to deconvert. So, are there hard money loans? Absolutely, absolutely, and they work better on properties that are not listed because of the marketplace today. Now, if the property's been on the market for 300 days, you probably have an opportunity. The first hard money loan is the hardest, but then once you have one hard money loan, they just give you the money the next time. Now, I made that sound simple. Your credit history can't change, but a hard money loan is a lot easier, especially if you're a real estate agent. So if you have money in the bank, but let's just say you don't have the true income coming in $10,000 a month, let's say, and then you're paying into the tax system, it is easier to get a hard money loan, but the interest rates are higher. So if you do a hard money loan, they are very strict on how they pay out to help you renovate. And you will become, so if you don't like paper, you better get a notebook because you got to write everything down. Absolutely everything. You could even use this to buy. We right now are looking at buying a property in another state with a hard money loan. So it can be done. If you're interested in hard money loans and you're on the call now, just let me know. I'll have you talk to Mark because he's got a person in the city of Chicago, but she works in other states as well. So are there other ways to buy? Yes, I said it. You can go look for probate. You can search by senior exemption. You could look for properties that are currently paid off. You have to, and when it comes to this, you have to be someone that is able to close the deal. Meaning, there are people that just want out. I just want out. Just give me 10 grand, give me 20 grand, give me 30 grand. I just want out. There are those deals, but you got to, this is where when outside opens up in Illinois, I know some states are wide open. This is where you got to go to networking events. You got to go to the investor events. You can even go to some of these events where they're having investor classes. Sit in the back of the audience. Don't say a word. Don't open your mouth and say you're a real estate agent because you become the person they're going to try to use. Trust me. Just take notes and learn. There's always something new to learn about investing. Can you do wholesales? Can you do assignments? Absolutely. But in the state of Illinois, you must be licensed or you can only do one a year. And based on having conversations with attorney, only about 10% of those actually close. I know. So the easiest way to invest, whether you're a realtor or you're working with an investor, especially a first-time investor, the easiest way is really truly you need your own money, but good credit and a down payment, or just your own money. Or you can actually start investor groups, but you want really talk to an attorney and an accountant. You probably want to incorporate. But let's just go with the basics. Buy a multi-unit. Buy a multi-unit and live in the property and rent the other units out so it pays your mortgage. Buy your first home, live in it, then rent it out and buy something else to live in. Now, you must live in the property for 2 years. I say maybe because it depends on the terms of agreement when you look at your paperwork. So you can never lie to HUD. You can never lie to a bank. You can never lie and say you're going to own or occupy a property and then move out the day you or never move in because you could have a lawsuit. You could actually go to jail. You cannot lie. So I'm telling you, don't lie. Move into the house. Now, could something happen? You buy a property. Like my first property is FHA. It's in the same city I live in. I bought the property in 1997 and I've been in the property forever. I moved out. Still have that FHA loan. FHA is not a bad word. My mortgage is $500 a month. You coming in here, Mark? So then, um, so now it's a rental. And so $500 a month and we rent it out for $1,600 a month. Right. So I lived in the house first. Now I have to tell you, it is a townhouse. I also pay an additional 500 for taxes and additional 200 for HOAs. So 1600 sounds awesome, but you see that there's a nice spread in the income. Now, and I'm not telling you how to save money. Again, that could be a whole nother class. If you are a realtor and you have a real job, buy a house before you quit. Seriously. Buy a house or a multi-unit before you quit your job to do real estate. Suck it up, keep the job, buy a house. Because if you don't have the income today, you'll have to get your shoebox out, really a bank, and you got to start saving money. And when I say the hard truth, and sometimes you guys need to see me talk about this, um, as I hold my coffee for the last 30 minutes. Well, I like things. I love things. But sometimes in order to do this, you have to live beneath your means. When I bought my first house in 1997, I lived in Aldi. Um, we ate a lot of beans and rice. Seriously, I lived so beneath my means. We didn't buy a new car and we bought a house in 1997. So sometimes you got to stay out of TJ Maxx, Ross. the you might need to sell your shoes, your Louis, some of your like starting to stress out. You can't care about what anybody else thinks. It is so hard to live beneath our means. Luckily for me, I come from a very conservative household, meaning my mother would drive a car like the Flintstones and seriously, there was a hole in her station wagon in the front seat of the car when we would go up to Wisconsin every summer. My mother always lived well beneath her means, well beneath her means, so she could have the house. If you really want to compete in this world, watch what people do, watch what other cultures do. There's something I want to tell you, right? I was talking to agents that lived on the North Shore here in Illinois, and they said, I was like, so what do you post on Instagram? Would you post that you're standing in front of a Porsche car? They were like, absolutely not. Like they are so conservative and they live well beneath their means. So if I could really encourage you, the next time you go to TJ Maxx window shop, write down what you really wanted. Yesterday I wanted to buy some Bears gym shoes and a Bears coffee mug, and I was like, I don't need this. I really don't need this. So yeah. Okay. So feel free, send your questions through the chat. If you're a Caremark agent and you are watching the replay, send your questions in the feed. So finding the deal, and then I'm going to actually show you. Auction sites. You can go to auction sites. You will probably need 10% down and you have to close on time. Your multiple listing service. So you could, depending on your multiple listing service, you can look for short sales, pre-foreclosures, and REO, bank owned homes. And RMLS, you can. The HUD store. Every one of you, if you have not done this today, you have to go to HUDHomestore.com and register as an agent. If you work for a boutique brokerage, and you get to the HUD store and you don't have, and your company doesn't have an NAID number, it should take your broker owner 10 minutes to do this if all of their documents are in the right place. I just had to renew in October. So all of you go to the HUD store, and I'm not teaching you about HUD today. Maybe I'll have a HUD class one day, but you need to become a learner. So I want you to go to that site and start reading, because there are a few ways you can buy. You can buy, um, usually when they list these properties, they're owner occupied first, then they go to investors. But did you know that you could actually open a nonprofit and buy HUD homes in bulk? A lot of people don't know this because we don't share all of this information because we want to keep it for ourselves. Your tax system. So I'm going to use Remind today. RPR. Every agent in the entire United States gets access to Realtors Property Resource. So you can look for pre-foreclosures here. Then the hunt. I told you, you got to get in your car, you got to drive. You really do. And if you buy in an area where you think that the property won't be watched, then you need to start sitting down and writing down, I need a board up company, I need someone to watch it. And once the property gets to a point where it's habitable, you might have someone you know stay in the property. And then a share sale. Google it. I just gave you a website. Feel free to write down www.tjsc.com. You could write /sales/upcoming sales. Literally, I believe so. Cadillus and Associates, Pearson Associates, a lot of the attorneys that work nationwide for banks, they put their upcoming share of sales on here, and you didn't have to buy it. This is what people don't tell you. Okay, so let's go find the deal.